And welcome back to The Watchman, only right here on TBN from Ashkelon, Israel, a community that has been under increasing threat over the past few years by that barrage of Hamas rockets close by, just under 8 miles away from Gaza. But now Israel has a great equalizer, folks. It is called Iron Dome. It's a groundbreaking anti-missile battery, and we had a chance to visit Iron Dome, an exclusive up-close visit with Israeli Defense Forces Lieutenant Colonel Liran Cohen, who explained to us how Iron Dome works and why it is so important for Israel's security. Take a look. Well, Lieutenant Colonel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and what a great opportunity to get a look at Iron Dome. I guess first of all, Lieutenant Colonel, this is great Israeli innovation, great Israeli technology. Tell everyone how Iron Dome works.
The Battle Management Center, which sits with the radar, builds a defense plan to how to intercept the rocket in midair. We want to intercept it in midair to make sure it's not going to go off course and maybe hit somewhere else. We want to make sure that it is destroyed in the air. And then once the defense plan is set, my operators engage fire, and a missile, an Iron Dome missile, which from a launcher, just like the one we have right here, is fired off and hits the target.
Yeah. Soldiers are kind of ultimately making the call, right?
It's a combined effort, if we see it this way. It's a very smart system, a technological system.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in large salvos of a lot of rockets coming in, you can't have a man in the loop for every rocket. But we keep the man in the loop for sometimes not every algorithm that you have in the system will be the right one according to the threat that comes in. There's a lot of situational awareness that you need to understand if a rocket is really threatening, or maybe it's not, or maybe it's friendly fire, or sometimes the system thinks it's coming from a certain area which is not the real area it's coming from. So there's a lot of issues that a man in the loop is needed to operate the system.
Tell us about the great success rate of Iron Dome, Lieutenant Colonel. Look, we've had thousands of rockets obviously coming out of Gaza over the past few years. Most recently, 2014, we had Operation Protective Edge. Tell us how Iron Dome performed then. It was really a game changer in a lot of respects in that conflict.
I'll tell you actually that today we're celebrating the 5 years since the first interception of Iron Dome in Israel. And it was the first one, and 5 years later we're over 1,000 interceptions with Iron Dome. What we see throughout the years is, first of all, the system is growing and getting better from time to time. That's due to upgrades that we put into the system with the industries that work side by side with us. And what we see is also the threat growing and proliferating all the time. We had rockets, with a number of rockets fired in the Second Lebanon War. We're now even much more than that fired in the last operation in Pillar of Defense and Protective Edge. And we understand that the threat is growing and growing, and we got to be there one step ahead all the time. And we're trying to do that, and we're doing it, and we're getting ready for the next challenge. We're going to see a lot more rockets fired in, bigger salvos, and we're getting ready for that.
It seemed in the latest round during Protective Edge in 2014 that the likes of Hamas out of Gaza, those rockets are reaching further and further. Places like Ashdod, Beersheba. Talk about how the threat is increasing in terms of that rocket capability from Gaza.
Yeah, we expected it. Well, we figured, and we knew that the Hamas would try to fire to a longer range, and maybe even have a high explosive in the rockets and try to cause more damage. And also for short range. We saw both short range and longer range fired in the last Protective Edge. In Pillar of Defense, we were ready where they fired to every part of the Israeli country in Israel. And in Protective Edge, we were there to everywhere they fired, intercepting, and ready to handle that threat. And we're ready for the next escalation, next operation, trying to be one step ahead.
Because unfortunately, Israel's enemies are resilient in their goals.
Yes, they are. We're getting ready for threat throughout the entire areas in the country. We're facing threats from the northern part, from Hezbollah.
That's a key point. Whose arsenal probably dwarfs Hamas's, I would think.
Much more.
And much greater distance.
Greater distance in the number of tens of thousands, even more than that. And we're getting ready for that. We're intercepting the right targets that we want to intercept, and defending our strategic areas, our cities, and wherever is needed.
It's a way of life, I guess, Lieutenant Colonel, as we wrap up here, that the average American may not be able to grasp. But there's been a U.S. role in Iron Dome. Can you talk about that a bit for American viewers?
There's a great role of the U.S. Iron Dome in supporting the development and equipment of Iron Dome. Due to great help of the U.S., we had more batteries that were deployed, developing greater capability of the system. And it's defending Israel, and defending Israel is sometimes defending a lot of other areas in the world.
That is true.
Because we're trying to prevent larger conflictations with Iron Dome.
Yeah.
If you think about the damage that could have been done in protective edge if there was no Iron Dome to Israeli property, and the way that we had to react as a country to that kind of threat when we had no defense, I'm sure we would be in a different scenario with protective edge.